Let's jump right in. We're tackling a huge challenge for any leader today. How do you make the right call when the world just feels like it's spinning out of control? We're going to look at how to build an ethical compass that actually works in this modern, chaotic age. This one sentence from our recent KPMG report really just nails it. Those stable, predictable patterns that businesses used to rely on? Yeah, those are pretty much gone. We are living in a state of constant, unrelenting change.
And this image, well, it gets right to the heart of it. We've gone from an environment that was just kind of fluid to one that is truly volatile. And the key word there, it's interconnected. You've got climate crises, political messes, supply chain shocks. They don't happen in neat little boxes anymore. They all feed off each other, creating these massive, unpredictable waves of uncertainty.
Okay, so let's break that down. What are the actual major risks that are defining this new age of volatility we're all talking about?
Well, experts have kind of boiled all these interconnected threats down into three big, powerful scenarios. First, the fear that a huge crisis hits and we are just not ready for it. Second, this erosion of truth and trust in, well, everything. And third, a world where countries start building walls, literally and figuratively, and stop cooperating. We're going to circle back to these, but for now, you can see it's a pretty daunting picture.
So with all that chaos happening out there, the biggest question becomes an internal one. What is a company even for anymore? How does it find its true north in the middle of a storm?
For decades, for the longest time, the answer was super simple: shareholder primacy. Your only job was to make as much money as possible for the people who own the stock, period. But that often leads to this short-term thinking that can really hurt a company down the road. But now we're seeing this massive shift to what's called stakeholder theory. And the whole idea here is that to be truly successful, to be resilient, a company has to create value for everyone with a stake in the game.
And look, this isn't just some theory from a textbook. This quote points to a really pivotal moment. Back in 2019, you had 181 of the most powerful CEOs in the world publicly say, you know what, our purpose isn't just about shareholders anymore. That was a massive, massive signal that the game was changing.
So who are we talking about here? Who are these stakeholders? Well, it's a way bigger circle than just investors. It's your employees, who deserve to be treated fairly in a safe place. It's your customers, who expect you to deliver on your promises. It's the communities where you set up shop. And yeah, it's even the environment. All of them have a real, legitimate stake in what you do.
Okay, so talk is cheap, right? It's one thing to say you care about all your stakeholders, but it is a completely different thing to actually do it, especially when the pressure's on. So let's get practical. Let's look at the toolkit, the ethical compass you need to find your way through these tough spots.
Just think about it for a second. The heat is on. Your shareholders are screaming about cutting costs, your employees desperately need more support, and your customers are demanding you take a stand on an issue. What do? Well, these next few tools are designed to answer that exact question.
So there's this really powerful framework called the draft model. It's basically a step-by-step guide to keep your thinking straight. First, you define the dilemma. What is the actual problem you're trying to solve? Then, you research the principles at play and recognize what you owe to all the different groups. Next, you assess your options and, this is so important, you forecast the consequences of each path. And only then do you take action and you're ready to test and defend that decision.
Now, what's so powerful about this? It literally forces you to hit the brakes. It's like a shield against the tyranny of the urgent. So instead of making some gut call that you might regret later, it pushes you to draft a really thoughtful, ethical solution.
And to give that process some real teeth, you can use this set of key questions. Think of it like an ethical stress test for your decision. You have to ask yourself not just about the outcome, but about fairness. Am I balancing everyone's interests here? And the big one, empathy. How would this feel if I were on the receiving end? This is where it goes from theory to actually trying to do right by people.
Okay, so we have this chaotic world on one hand and this new ethical toolkit on the other. So how do we actually put this compass to work against those big global risks we talked about at the beginning?
Let's start with that second big risk scenario, this whole idea of the death of truth and trust. It's fueled by all the misinformation out there and this general loss of faith in our institutions.
Get this. This is just wild. A poll from May of 2024 found that almost half of Americans believed the stock market was down for the year. In reality, it was up significantly. That shows you just how powerful and damaging a polluted information environment can be. So, let's say you're getting pressure to put out some misleading numbers to make the quarter look better. How do you push back? Well, that draft model, it becomes your defense. It gives you the script to define the problem as a choice between honesty and dishonesty, to recognize your duty to be truthful, and to lay out the very real long-term consequences of lying to your boss.
And this whole way of thinking applies to other big choices too, especially with that walls and moats risk. For years, everybody loved just-in-time supply chains. They were super efficient, but also incredibly fragile. This new, volatile world, it demands a just-in-case mindset. You build in resilience, even if it's not the most efficient thing in the short term. It's an ethical choice, really, choosing stability for your people and your customers over pure, brittle efficiency.
And all of this brings us to the final, and I think maybe the most important idea of all. In a world that is constantly being disrupted, ethics, it's not some nice-to-have. It is the ultimate survival strategy.
There's this concept called the iron law of responsibility, and it's so simple but so true. Put simply, if you misuse your power, whether you're a leader or a whole company, in a way that society thinks is irresponsible, eventually you're going to lose that power. You lose trust, you lose your license to operate, you lose everything.
And here's the thing that changes the entire game. As people's trust in governments and other public institutions goes down, guess who they're looking to? Businesses. Faith in companies is actually going up. Now, that's a massive opportunity, but it comes with an incredible amount of responsibility. The expectation for companies to step up and just do the right thing has never, ever been higher. So that really leaves us with this one last critical question. Getting through this new world, it takes more than a map, you need a compass. And in an era where trust is the most valuable and the rarest thing we have, the most important question for any of us isn't just what are you going to do, but what are you going to choose to build? Thanks for watching.